I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, not to dwell on Bob Ferguson, but he just makes it so easy. He is clearly using his office of the Attorney General to campaign for governor. Plus, a proposed $250 million facility is a prime example of the climate industrial complex at work. Also, should being homeless make you part of a protected class? Some Spokane leaders think so. That and more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. Hello, and welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse. You know, I don't think it was a terror organization that took us offline yesterday, unless you consider Comcast Business to be a terror organization, which
Ooh,
some people,
slam.
no, it's fine. We appreciate your help getting back online. And I'm not also going to rule out Bob Ferguson. But, you know, as I said, I'm not going to accuse him of anything because he'll turn around and sue me. I'm just saying it's a coincidence. Every time we're on the air and have a tech issue, we also had plans to talk about Bob Ferguson that day. Today is no different, but let's hope that we don't get kicked off the air. Anyway, wonderful to have you here for our final live show of the week. Although I really hope that this isn't the last time I see you this week, because Nicole and I, and my husband, frankly, would all like to see you at Summer Freedom Fest 2024 coming up on Saturday in Redmond. This is the second year that Brian Haywood is hosting Freedom Fest out at his ranch. I'll be there. Our friends at KVI will be there. There will be live music, food trucks, vendor booths, inflatables for the kids and those of us who are young at heart, if we choose to jump on one. And of course, you're going to hear from a bunch of political candidates. And so it's just a really good opportunity, I think, to be around like-minded people. But people across the political spectrum are welcome, by the way. As long as you value freedom, you are welcome to come. Heck, I even know Brian Haywood invites, I think Bob Ferguson's invited for a second year in a row. Maybe he'll accept this year. Maybe he'd like to come join us and talk about why he kept the lawsuit against the initiative secret from all of us. He is more than welcome. We would love to have him. Love. I'd also note that they're going to have something at Summer Freedom Fest that you guys have been clamoring for. They will have yard signs for the initiatives. They'll have yes on the initiative yard signs. So you can snag one up while you're there. I know a lot of you have messaging me saying, when can we get those? At Summer Freedom Fest. We'll see you guys there, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Willowcrest Stables in Redmond. All right, really briefly, I just want to touch on, I don't know if it's a correction so much as I got out ahead of myself a little bit. So in the Lands Commissioner race, you'll recall that in the days after the primary election, the top two candidates were Republicans, and it seemed as if Democrats were going to get shut out. And then Dave Updegrove saw this big surge when King County votes got counted. And I said, I just don't think that Sue Kiel-Peterson, the Republican who ended up moving from second to third, was going to be able to catch up. But frankly, I think that I spoke too soon, because this is going to head into hand recount territory. That's how close this thing is getting. There are still some ballots left to be counted. So as of right now, Jamie Herrera Butler has maintained her place in first. She's got 21.97%. This is one of those races that's so close we had to add the double digits at the end. Dave Updegrove has 20.89 and Sue Kiel-Peterson has 20.77. To put that into numbers for you, she is down about 2,300 votes. And I was just looking at the Secretary of State's website. There are estimated 15,000 ballots left to be counted, and virtually none of those are in King. So if she can have some really good ballot drops in the remaining counties, she could close that roughly 2,300 vote gap, and they would close Democrats out of the race for Commissioner of Public Lands. But we will see. So I wanted to let you know that maybe I spoke a little too soon on that. Also a reminder, if there's still time, I'm not sure what the time deadline is, but to cure your ballot and to make sure that you've followed your ballot all the way. You go to the Secretary of State's website, plug your name in to make sure that there wasn't some sort of issue with your ballot, like a mismatched signature. You can cure it. And in this race, this is the reason why this stuff matters. So just keeping you updated there. All right, so we had our rally for democracy outside the office of the Secretary of State in downtown Seattle yesterday. It was a ton of fun. Poor Nicole, though. Nicole had to stay here. I'm sorry, Nicole.
That's okay.
You were a good team player because we had that tech meltdown yesterday, so we taped the show to post, and Nicole stayed here to make sure that that damn thing was posted for y'all. So she couldn't join us down in Seattle, but it was a lot of fun, I have to say. So just remember on the show yesterday, I said, I know Bob Ferguson is worried about this scandal because he's tweeting up a storm about it. And he never responds. He put out a 7-part tweet this week trying to explain himself. And that's when I really knew, like, he is worried that this is going to stick. And it was so funny yesterday. I just had to show you guys the pictures for those of you who are watching the show today rather than listening. Let's Go Washington troll level expert, because they held this rally outside the Secretary of State's office. Their sign game was so strong. They made signs of each one of Bob Ferguson's tweets trying to excuse what he did. So we had a lot of fun with that outside his office, holding signs of his tweets. And as I said on social media, I posted the picture of me holding those signs. They said, you can't tweet your way out of this one, Bob. But no, I think it was definitely a good turnout of supporters and just trying to make people realize. And, you know, what I said at the rally is, look, you know, put the partisan aspects of, you know, if you think it's partisan aside, the bottom line is that Democrats have been doing an awful lot of things in the last 8 months that appear to be undermining our democratic process. And if we're so concerned about Trump and undermining democracy, how can you just turn a blind eye to this? If there's a lawsuit threatening the initiatives that so many Washingtonians work so hard for, there is no reason to keep them in the dark about it. And there's absolutely no excuses. So Bob Ferguson continues his damage control on this. So after the story first came out, I think it's a couple days later, and he really started to try to defend himself on social media, I was texting a friend who's, you know, in political circles, and I said, I give it hours before Bob Ferguson tweets out, you know how he's always sending out those, oh, Dave Reichert caught on a hot mic saying this horrible thing. And it's usually not horrible. It's usually something about his religion. And Bob Ferguson apparently has an issue with people being religious. So I was like, I give it hours before he tries to distract by doing either himself leaking out some Dave Reichert audio or having his buddies at the Seattle Times leak out some Dave Reichert audio. Like clockwork, this man is so predictable. He sent out within hours of me texting a friend that, not one, but two. Oh, Dave Reichert caught again on a hot mic. And it just dumb things. It's like things that don't even matter. And so he was obviously trying to. One of them, again, was that climate thing. So Dave Reichert at events apparently keeps talking about, you know, I was at one of these events where he said, look, you know, we have to take care of our planet. We have to make sure that we're doing things, you know, to take care of our state and this beautiful place that we call home. But yeah, he says, I'm religious. I do think ultimately that God controls the weather, and there are some things that are out of our control. Bob Ferguson, for some reason, thinks that's the most controversial thing in the world. And it's like, is it though? Like, do you really know that there isn't a God out there that's in control of the weather? And what is Jay Inslee doing exactly that you think will help control the weather in the future? So he keeps putting this out. He literally said, caught again. Earlier this year, Dave Reichert was caught denying the science of climate change to a mega audience, but we now know he just didn't do it once. Newly released audio reveals he did it 3 times. This is what he truly believes, quote, we can't change the weather. God's in control of the weather. Does Bob think he can change the weather?
Aren't we just trying to mitigate the
We're
impact
trying to mitigate. Yes.
So it's not, that's not a controversial statement. I think it's whoever your God is.
Right.
Probably does control the weather.
And also that's insulting to a lot of other religions that believe in a lot of other beings, that they also don't think that we're in control of the weather. But yes, can we mitigate some of our human caused impacts on the environment? Of course we can. Not through Governor Jay Inslee's horrible climate policies that just make the middle class more poor and don't actually do anything to reduce climate emissions, as an example, but through real solutions. So I'd rather have a candidate, frankly, who said, hey, yeah, we need to take care of this beautiful state of ours, but ultimately, like, God's in control. Even though I'm not a religious person, that doesn't offend me. Like, why does it offend Bob Ferguson so much?
It seems so desperate.
Well, it is desperate,
feels
Nicole.
very desperate.
You know what?
But it's
It
so
does seem
blatantly desperate.
It is. You know what else is really blatantly desperate? Using your office and the taxpayer time and dime to help your gubernatorial campaign. And this is one of those things that, again, it bothers me because it's like, this is so obvious. You're probably familiar with this, but there has to be this clear line between campaigning and, you know, serving. So if you are an elected official and you're also campaigning, maybe for re-election or for a different position, there has to be a bright line between those two things. You can't use your position or resources as an elected official to help out your campaign. Of course, some things are hard to distinguish. Like Bob Ferguson, ramping up press conferences about how great he is and these things he's doing. He's probably doing that, right? Because he wants his face on TV more. That's free media time for him. Like, hey, I could do an interview with King 5 or the Seattle Times as the Attorney General on something great I'm doing, and that just happens to help me get some recognition in my race for governor. Well, this one is even beyond that. And honestly, I think it should be a PDC violation. I know it's hard to prove that the intent here is to help his campaign, but for the love of God. So they sent out this massive press release through the Attorney General's office yesterday. The headline, Attorney General's lawsuits result in more than $2.6 billion for Washington in the last decade. Interesting. So you've chosen right now, in the middle of his campaign for governor, to talk about all the work he's done in the last 10 years. Couldn't save that for, I don't know, maybe his last few days in office as Attorney General, and then look back at the last decade plus and say, hey, here's all the cases where he's brought in all of this money and recovered money on behalf of Washingtonians. He says about $780 million have been consumer relief, $1.8 billion money invested to increase services. So this is like, and they also put out an email, again, from the Office of Attorney General, where they reiterated these points and saying he's also won $550.4 million for Washington during the first half of 2024. He said, quote, my office takes on powerful special interests that refuse to play by the rules and puts money back in the pockets of Washingtonians. In what universe does that sound and read like a political ad? I'd also note, what's very absent from those releases? Any mention of all the money he's lost. Like, did you see Value Village on there anywhere? Let me just get my...
Or all the cops' lives he's destroyed.
Yeah, anything about the lost lawsuits? Nope, don't see it. Wow, isn't that convenient? Anything about... Let me just get my binoculars back on. Anything about the chicken checks? No, not about sending money to people who've been dead for 40 years? Nope. It just couldn't mention that.
Whoops.
Is there a more blatant... just that quote. Just that quote coming from his Attorney General's website. My office takes on powerful special interests that refuse to play by the rules and puts money back in the pockets of Washingtonians. That is truly as campaigny a campaign thing as I've ever seen. So what do you do about something like that, right? I don't know if there's anything to be done. Because it's not as blatant as saying like, hey, I, had my executive assistant work on a campaign flyer on our computer and then send out a campaign mailer like from work. Or using a press conference that's a press conference he's holding as the sitting Attorney General to talk about his campaign or to do an interview like that. Those things are pretty cut and dry. This is like, nothing saying I can't tout my own success, toot toot, using the Attorney General's office and the taxpayer money and the taxpayer time. And if it just happens to benefit my gubernatorial campaign, well, then so be it. I'm saying we really do need to, I'm going to work on that this weekend. Nicole, hold me to this. I need similar to, Unbelievable and Sanity Check. I need a segment open with some real corny kind of music for like, what did Bob do today?
Okay.
What kind of ethical lapses did he make? Oh my God, that's like the beginning of a song. That's the beginning of a song. What did Bob do today? What kind of ethical lapses did he make?
There you go. You just wrote it.
Oh my God, I'm going to write a song about Bob Ferguson. Okay, stay tuned for that. Somebody who's more musically inclined can help me out with that. All right, coming up next, we're going to have a prime example of what I mean when I say climate industrial complex. First, I got to show you this because we one of our newest sponsors is Natchez RV Resort. They're opening up their second round of lots. They've got 18 extra large RV lots. They're going to have the phase 2 grand opening on the 24th. But they sent us new video because they're finally getting that big clubhouse done out there. When Mike and I went to see it, it was like still in progress. The clubhouse is absolutely beautiful. They've got the pickleball courts. It's an absolutely gorgeous setting. There's so much to do. Look at this clubhouse. So you have an RV lot, but you can have friends over, hang in the clubhouse. Look how beautiful that is. There's a gym in there. Get your fitness on. There's showers. There's a gourmet kitchen. And that's accessible to you. And right outside, they're just finishing up the saltwater pool and the spa. So in the hot tub. That's an amazing place. So if you are like, you have an RV, you're trying to think of somewhere for home base for the RV, I'm telling you, Natchez RV Resort, they've got 18 extra large yachts. 18 extra large RV lots starting at just $79.9. They are yacht sized. Good one, Nicole. Thank you for saving me there. I really appreciate it. And there's so much to do around there. First of all, summer's coming to an end here. So 300 days of sunshine out there. If you're missing the sun, year-round stuff for the family to do: hunting, snow skiing, golf, river rafting, outstanding wine tasting just nearby. And you can invite Nicole and I, and we'll come hang out in the great room or wherever with you. So NatchezRVResort.com, NatchezRVResort.com, and some undivided viewers and listeners have already bought lots out there in phase 1. So you'll be amid good, sane company. All right. So we know that our electrical grid is not going to be able to handle the increasing demand, and it's certainly not going to be able to handle this push toward electrification. So who caused that, right? I mean, there's a couple, I guess. I'm not going to blame it all on Governor Inslee, but we have, increased demand. More people have moved to Washington State, and our supply has not kept up with that. I think you can blame the government for poor planning, etc. But then, of course, you have a self-imposed, electrification goal to reduce emissions. I think that by 2045, our energy has to be 100% renewable or non-emitting sources. So the state's Clean Energy Transformation Act stipulates utilities can't use coal-based electricity starting next year. And by 2030, they can only use carbon neutral sources. Then by 2045, the energy has to be from 100% renewable. So it's just these self-imposed goals, right? But we know what the ramifications are going to be. Seattle City Light already said, our supply is not keeping up with demand. Energy rates are going to go up, and that we're going to be in this disastrous situation. So Governor Inslee creates a problem, right? He creates a problem through his climate agenda that he says is all because he just loves the planet and all of these things, sets artificial goals. All of us have to pay for it. We have to pay for it through the Climate Commitment Act at the gas pump, which means we're paying for it at the grocery store. We might have to electrify our homes to the tune of $50,000+ a year. And so you get into this climate industrial complex because all that money we spend and all of that has to go somewhere. But this story really caught our attention today. It's from our friends at the Center Square. Washington State increasingly at risk for rolling blackouts. And again, that's that supply-demand issue and this push toward electrification. But get this, it says a proposed battery energy storage system near Goldendale is under consideration by the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. It would, if ultimately approved by Governor Jay Inslee, be able to provide 200,000 homes with electricity up to 4 hours. For up to 4 hours. Great. It's a facility that Washington residents might need if the state is unable to meet future energy demands, which the company behind the project warns is growing more likely. So wrap your mind around this for a second. So this proposed facility, which would have to be approved by Governor Jay Inslee, is going to cost $250 million, right? The only reason we need it is in large part because of Governor Inslee's climate agenda. So he creates a crisis, pushing the state toward the possibility that we're going to have rolling blackouts. And then he's the one that gets to approve a $250 million battery storage facility to help with the rolling blackouts that his policy agenda is going to help create. And I would also say it can only help, even after $250 million, it can only help 200,000 homes with electricity for up to 4 hours. That's going to be a drop.
Who's the lucky winners?
Who are the lucky winners? Let me guess, Bainbridge Island. Let me guess, wherever Inslee's at in retirement, they're going to be benefiting from the 4 hours of electricity. I would also just note, and I'm not going to accuse this company of any wrongdoing, but you have this company that's going to be tasked in the proposal with building this. I want to look at every single member of their board or whatever it is, anybody associated with that company, and see who they're donating money to. We're going to do that over the weekend because that's what I mean by the climate industrial complex. You have these companies that are let's keep Inslee's Climate Commitment Act. Do you think it's because they really think it works? No, it's because they are poised to make hundreds of millions of dollars off these climate goals that the governor has put into place, and we're the ones who suffer from it. we're the ones who have to pay the price for it. We're the ones who will have to deal with the rolling blackouts. We're the ones who have to pay more because of the Climate Commitment Act at the gas pump and at the grocery store. And we're not going to benefit from it. We're the ones who have to come out of pocket somehow $50,000 to electrify our home. And then all of these people who had the foresight, maybe because they saw we've got a climate governor. He was just the climate presidential candidate. Like, hey, let's put in bids for some of these things. Let's be proponents of what the governor is doing. And then they're going to get hundreds of millions of dollars to build infrastructure, facilities, electric ferries, whatever it is. So it's the climate industrial complex, the exact same as the homeless industrial complex, where they give hundreds of millions of dollars to their groups and cronies. And then the homeless crisis never gets any better. Because again, there's no motivation to make it any better. Do you really think there's going to be motivation to do anything that's going to meaningfully help the climate in Washington state when hundreds of millions and billions of dollars over the next 20 years is on the line? Of course not. Why would you do that? That would be a dumb business investment. Like, hey, let's fix this problem that's bringing us in hundreds of millions of dollars. We won't get any money, down the road in 10 years, but look, they're not going to do that. Sorry. They're just not going to do it. So, and also Washington state is not going to make any dent in the climate on an island. So that's all this is. This is about bringing in a bunch of money, distributing it to cronies and allies. Governor Inslee will leave the governor's office. I guarantee you he will, within a month, have a 7-figure job in the climate sector, and he's going to retire comfortably on the back of all these policies that he pushed through, unless we vote yes, pay less, and repeal his wasteful Climate Commitment Act in November. On this subject, though, talking about the climate industrial complex, all these self-imposed goals, and ignoring and lying, not even ignoring, lying about what they do to the lower class and the middle class, like the CCA. So when we look at, and also I should mention Initiative 2066, which we also want to vote yes on in November, which would protect energy choice, which would make sure that you can continue to use gas in your home, that you can continue to use gas in your business. Now, this is also something, this goal that Inslee's working toward, because there's all this money wrapped up in it for him, 100%. And he doesn't care, and they're not willing to talk about and acknowledge the real impact that this has on people who are genuinely struggling today to get by. People who might care about the climate, might care about climate change, but they're also looking at how this is going to impact their business, how it's going to impact their family financially, and they care about that too. And they want the governor to care about that too. So on the effort to ban natural gas, I just wanted to tease, on Sunday's show, we're going to be joined by Rio Isama. He's an immigrant to the United States from Japan who has become a successful business owner. He owns Samurai Noodle Inc. They have locations in Seattle and elsewhere. Really cool guy. He's going to stop by on Sundays with subscribers and talk about what is at stake for him as a business owner and a restaurant that relies on gas. What's at stake for him if Initiative 2066 does not pass in November?
I understand that there are people who wants to focus on their agenda, the climate. I understand that that doesn't mean I agree with it, but I respect that. But my question is this the first things that they need to do? Or is this the things they need to do right now before other things that maybe they can do? I mean, I'm from Asia, and then I gone to many Asian countries, and then, I mean, if they talk about the climate, it's just a global thing, right? Yeah. U.S. cannot change everything. That's my opinion. And then I understand if I say so, they get mad. But the thing is that for me, this is my life. I mean, if they really ban the gas, and then this one does not protect the grandfather, store, right? Because if the Puget Sound what's that?
Energy.
If they decide this area is done, then done. I mean,
so what would happen though if they came in and said, "Hey, 2 years from now, no natural gas"?
Right.
What would happen to your business though?
We just close. I mean, that's all.
You would actually have to close
because we cannot prepare.
Yeah, so some real implications here of the climate agenda that Governor Inslee is trying to push through. So again, Rio is going to join us on Sundays with subscribers. You can sign up for those Sunday shows at undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. All right, we're going to get to our segment Unbelievable next. A couple unbelievable stories about the homelessness crisis and the homeless industrial complex and a lack of interest in actually solving it or making any meaningful progress. But first, I have encouraged you guys to take the Firstmark Challenge, firstmarkinsurance.com. We all need insurance. The question is, do you have the right insurance for the coverage you need? And are you paying the best price that you can pay? If you're trying to figure that out on your own, that's difficult. I've been there. And that's why I'm so happy to be a member of the Firstmark family. I'm now insured through Firstmark. Mike and I are. Nicole is. unDivided as a business is. And that's just because having a local insurance broker to handle these needs for you takes so much stress off your plate of wondering, am I well insured? Do I have the best price? You don't have to go out and do that. They're doing it for you, and they're rechecking and rechecking and rechecking to make sure that you're covered and that you're getting the best deal you can. And we've had so many good success stories from unDivided viewers and listeners. Ben and Leslie did the Firstmark Challenge. It saved them $1,500 a year. Casey said they saved him 37% off his auto quote. And then Maggie said that she got recommended through Firstmark a new bundle for her insurance that was half the cost and better coverage. So it really is a no-brainer. The Firstmark Challenge costs you nothing to do, just a little bit of your time, and then you never, ever pay Firstmark Insurance anything for their services. So sign up for the Firstmark Challenge today, firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. The very best part is they work for you. All right, let's get right to it. A double dose of unbelievable. All right, let's just talk about, like, what are the risks facing homeless people, okay? If you're just, like let's spitball. Nicole, you spitball with me. Like,
sure.
What are some risks, real risks, urgent risks facing someone like, I don't know, living on the streets in Seattle?
Oh, let's see. I would say, the environment and being exposed to harsh weather.
Yeah, that's one. I think that's very fair. They don't have food or water or something.
Cold, hot,
100%.
that type of thing.
I would also say, like, overdosing from drugs.
Possibly.
Yeah, that definitely, that's one of them.
Maybe a place to, disease coming from not having a proper restroom, like not having, I don't know.
Yeah, like
ways to bathe.
Living in filth and squalor. Yes. Yeah, I mean, being the victim of a crime. We know that homeless people, if they're living in a tent or out uncovered, they're more likely to be the victim of a crime, which is very serious. I mean, there's dying on the streets. I mean, there's a lot of things I can think of.
Knives, guns, all those things.
All of that, yeah. So, I mean, if you're like, I don't know, a regional homelessness authority that's tasked with helping the homeless, those would all be kind of top priorities, getting them into shelter, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. Or if you're the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, you could be focused on making sure that they don't get COVID. You could be focused on making sure that all those homeless people living out there in filth and squalor and around needles and drugs and crime, that they at least die on the streets with a mask on their face. That's the key.
And with gloves.
Let's be clear here. Like, if they're going to die in their tents with a fentanyl needle between their toes,
they have a test handy.
That they can test themselves for COVID-19
before they do fentanyl.
Yeah, before they do fentanyl, and so they don't spread it. Because it's such a sterile environment that they would want to make sure to isolate. Right? Yeah, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, all the things that they have on their plate, all the failures, increased homelessness, this is what they're focused on. They tweeted out, 39 local organizations have received COVID-19 mitigation supplies thanks to partners with the Department of Health and King County Public Health. We love seeing our community work together to keep the most vulnerable among us safe and healthy. They have distributed, this is their final distribution numbers that they're just now sharing. 11,000 N95 masks, 4,000 COVID-19 tests, 83,000 pairs of exam gloves, which I'm sure were used to examine themselves for COVID-19. What's this for? I don't understand.
To handle their tests.
3,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. Now that one I think could go a long way.
Yeah, no, I'm for that. As long as I don't drink it.
I mean, like, look, this is stupid. This is genuinely dumb. You have a home, and it's insulting to the homeless population, frankly. I know we're kind of laughing. Can you think of something dumber than handing a homeless person who's about to OD on fentanyl a mask and say, stay safe and healthy? These hundreds of millions of dollars go to this homelessness authority every single year since it started. They want more money. They've asked for their budget to be increased. Homelessness in King County increased 20% year over year. Why do you think so? Well, because they're out there patting themselves on the back for giving homeless people who are dying in filth and squalor and drug addiction a mask and hand sanitizer and saying, good luck. One of the dumbest things, that's saying a lot. One of the dumbest things I've ever seen them tweet out. Like, had this been, and I'm sure they were doing this during the height of the pandemic, and I don't think we would have made fun of it so much then. But the fact that even $1 is going to handing a homeless person a mask when you should be giving them your hand and saying, let's get you off the street and let's get you into shelter and let's make sure you're not doing drugs and dying or the victim of crime out here. It's so utterly laughable. I don't even know what else to say about it. All right, as if we can't get any worse, although, I don't know, which one's more unbelievable? Let's get a double dose in here, Nicole. So Spokane is the new Seattle. Spokane is going further to the left. They have a Democratic mayor now. And I just don't understand, I guess, when you have an example of what not to do and you choose to see that, see the implications, the devastation, and say, well, let's try it too. Maybe we won't have the same outcome here. It's like what, we talked about this yesterday with San Francisco. We could have looked at San Francisco and said, we don't like the path they're heading down, so let's not implement the same policies. Instead, we watched them hit rock bottom and said, hey, we'll join you there in a few years. The same with Portland. And, Seattle might be trying to moderate itself a little bit, but it did so too late. And now there's this big hole we have to dig ourselves out of. And for some reason in Spokane, they're like, hey, let's try that too. Like, we didn't learn from Portland. We didn't learn from Seattle. We didn't learn from San Francisco. We have to apparently learn this difficult lesson for ourselves. And we've talked on the show in the last month or so about some of the stories out of Spokane that have been wild, rent control policies that they want to implement. They want to put rent control on business spaces and just stuff like that, very shades of Seattle. This one to me also has shades of Seattle. And I hope that there are reasonable people in Spokane who will continue to push back against it forcefully, because it's a distraction. It makes no sense. And it's another feel-good policy that will do nothing to help the homeless. This is the headline from the Spokesman Review. Spokane City Council delays vote on homeless anti-discrimination law amid outrage. The Spokane City Council has delayed for 2 weeks voting on a controversial proposed law to protect the homeless from employment and housing discrimination, with a majority citing a need for more public outreach amid sharp pushback from prominent business and property owners. Existing civil rights laws prohibit businesses from rejecting a job applicant or serving a customer because of their race, religion, or other protected class, with some exceptions. The law considered Monday would add homelessness to those protected classes, making it illegal to use the lack of a residence as a reason to not hire someone or serve them. So they want to add homelessness. They want to put homelessness on the same level as race, religion, and other protected classes. First of all, I really don't think, there's a couple things here. I really don't think that there are businesses in this state, one of the most progressive places on earth, that if a homeless person came into a coffee shop or a business and had money to buy a coffee, that they wouldn't be served. Like, show me one place where that's happening. And in fact, I think enough of our fellow Washingtonians to believe that if a homeless person came in and didn't have money and they said, I'm hungry, or, I need something to drink, I think 99.9% of businesses would give it to them and would help them out for free. So part of these policies to me, and this very progressive idea of like, we're a progressive state, but also we think so little of people that we have to put all these protections in place to make sure people aren't racist jackwagons or aren't mean to the homeless or don't turn them away if they're thirsty or hungry. Like, that's not happening. But then on the other thing, like when you say not to hire someone, you're telling me that a business owner shouldn't be able to consider the fact that someone is living in a tent on the streets in deciding whether they think that person is reliable enough to hire them as an employee. I would also say there are a lot of entities that specifically look for work for the homeless, where homeless can go to day shelters, where they can go to employment hubs, where they can work in certain industries that are happy to have them and happy to have their labor and pay for, and happy to help people who are living on the streets get back on their feet. But if you're going to say across the board, you can't use someone's status as a homeless individual in determining whether to give them employment or whether they're the best candidate for the job, that is absolutely insane. That's absolutely insane. I would also say, though, I think there are a lot of businesses who would willingly and do willingly help out and hire homeless individuals who are trying to help them, give them a hand up, not a hand out. I know there are a lot of businesses in Seattle, some restaurants, some in the labor industry, who they seek out the groups that have homeless individuals that come in, fill out applications, and like connect them to jobs because they care and they're progressive. And if these people want to work, like ultimately that's what we want, right? We want them to be self-sufficient. If they're willing to step up and work for a paycheck, that is something I think a lot of businesses would proactively, if it's a good fit, say, we want you here. We want to help out. So again, it's about, like, do you think enough of your fellow citizens to know that they're not going to go out there and proactively discriminate and be cruel and horrible to homeless people, and that they will give them a hand up if they need one? You don't need a law for it, but it also isn't fair to force that and foist that upon businesses who don't want to hire someone who's homeless. Frankly, there's a lot of the fundamental reasons people experience homelessness in our state are what? Lack of housing, right? If you're Jay Inslee or Dow Constantine, we know that's not true. They're dealing with mental health issues, drug addiction, or both. So you're talking about a population of people that is probably not suited well for gainful, reliable employment because they're doing drugs or they're mentally ill. And they need to get those things sorted out before businesses should be forced to consider hiring them. It's absolutely ridiculous. Spokane, don't Seattle, Spokane. We've already done it here. I can give you numerous examples of cities where these types of policies have led to the downfall of cities that would otherwise be wonderful places to live and visit. So just don't do it, because this is a second example in a month that just has me very, very concerned about the state of Spokane. All right, we're going to get to Florida report with my sister next. There's something fishy going on in Florida. Voter registration is up for Republicans, yet Kamala Harris, we're supposed to believe, is surging in the polls there. I don't know. We'll talk about it with my sister. First, if you're in the market to sell your home, I highly suggest reaching out to our friend Wes Jones of sellwithwes.com. When we look at interest rates, and I know a lot of home buyers have been kind of holding out thinking, well, let's get that interest rate drop and then we'll have more people come in to purchase homes. But also right now, there's not a lot of inventory on the market. So if you list your home right now, Wes says it's actually pretty advantageous because you're going to have more home buyers rushing to check out your property. That's when you can get those higher offers for your home.
King County, median $1 million. Homes are still selling very, very quickly. If you want to do something this year, give me a call. I'd love to start the process now. I think that things will be moving very swiftly through probably October. And then as the election starts to come out, get closer, people always pump the brakes. But for all of you who are out there that are thinking like, oh, I can't sell my home because I need X amount, you're probably at the peak right now. It's probably worth more than it's ever been than previous times. So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Check out sellwithwes.com. Sellwithwes.com. You can start by using their home value calculator to see how much your home is worth. It might be worth more than you think. Hell, maybe they want to, Nicole, sell with Wes their home and then take their RV and just go live out at Natchez.
Smart.
I mean, honestly, if I could do that right now, I would.
And get your RV insurance.
Get your RV. Good. And if you don't fit into your RV and you want to lose some weight with the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic,
because that will promote a healthy lifestyle when you're out there. You get all those trails.
You'll be out there walking and biking. It'll be great.
Pickleball.
Anyway, where was I? Oh, sellwithwes.com. Sellwithwes.com. A better way to sell your home. All right, it is Thursday. That means we leave the craziness of Washington State behind. We go all the way to Florida to check in on what's happening in the Sunshine State. That's how you know the show is live. Sunshine State. It is our segment, Florida Report.
It's not even controversial anymore. People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Miranda, happy Thursday to you.
Yes, and happy Thursday to you.
It's been a week. It's been quite a week. I think Nicole wants to strangle me, but I've been waking up late every day. I'm just tired. But here we are. So we did a story on Florida Report maybe a month ago or something, talking about how registered Republicans were far exceeding registered Democrats in the state of Florida, which by 1 million, which makes this story out today very interesting about how Kamala Harris is suddenly like closing the gap in swing states and in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was looking up some stories to talk about today, this poll kept popping up on all the different like headlines that I was reading. And I was like, how can this be if the registered Republicans are now exceeding a million over the Democrats? And when I was reading, you know, obviously polls are very misleading. And when you start reading, it's like gathered from like a group of 500 voters, and it doesn't say how many of those are registered Republican or Democrat. But yeah, they're like, I think when we did this story a few weeks back, it was like 900,000 more. Now it's over 1 million more in just a couple weeks. So I can't see that gap getting any smaller between. Go ahead.
There's some maybe non-nefarious explanations here, but I've seen this, right? We've seen like, oh, all of a sudden in a matter of weeks, like his giant leads in all the swing states have evaporated. But there are other states, not just Florida, where you see this huge increase in registered Republicans, yet Kamala Harris is all of a sudden like closing the gap. I mean, obviously independents are still like the largest, like non-affiliated voters are still the largest group in, I believe, all states. You know, the number of people who actually say, I want to be a registered Republican or Democrat isn't as high. So it could be that independents, true swing voters, are like going over to Kamala Harris, or there's just some momentum there, or it could all just be nonsense.
It could all just be nonsense. I mean, when I was looking at some of these numbers, Florida has like 3.9 million registered independents, whether it's with a like larger independent party or the little tiny minority parties. But you're right. I mean, we don't always get an opportunity. I'm saying we because I'm one of those 3.9 million people registered with an independent party, but we don't always get an opportunity to vote within our parties. So we get our votes, if we want to be active voters, it's got to go somewhere. Yeah. So that could be a reason.
Well, because your system works different than ours. I mean, we don't have to, except in our presidential primary, that's the only time we would have to make a declaration on our envelope. We don't have to be a registered member of that party, but we have to declare for the presidential primary only we are a Republican, we are a Democrat. But we have an open primary process where we can vote, like in the election last week, for anyone we want. Party affiliation be damned. But yeah, polls are weird. I mean, Nicole mentioned this the other day. Like, I mean, and I remember in 2016, I was working for Fox 13. I was at the Republican Party return night, like watch night thing. And I remember seeing up on the screen that Trump had a 1% chance of winning the presidency, like based on polling and then I remember it being like, well, now he's the president. And I was like, holy smoke. So ever since then, and I think a lot of Americans are that way, polls just don't do it. Now, I don't think they're often off by as much as they were in 2016, but you know, I think we've had enough of bad polling to be highly skeptical of those results. So, but the Republican Party and Trump, even in Florida, where they love him around Mar-a-Lago, he cannot be just, you know, feeling like he's got it, because that's when you start to lose.
Yeah, for sure. And if that poll does anything for either party, it's more just like get out and vote. Hopefully it accelerates people to be active, because I don't care who you vote for. I just like to see people out there exercising their right to vote.
Yeah, I mean, I do care who you vote for, but you do you. I'm still might say something about it. Like, I don't know if Miranda said anything publicly, but I could out her and say that she's going to throw away her vote in November for the Libertarian.
I just love to Kobe a vote into the trash can, because I like I've said to you before, I believe that for the independents, it's a numbers game. And right now, I don't think we're ever going to really win anything big, but I do like to give my party the numbers just in hopes one day they get big enough for a debate stage.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really talk because I voted for Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate for president in 2020, but we had Chase Oliver on the show. We were not impressed. I was far more impressed with Joe Jorgensen. Chase was perfectly nice, but I really was not impressed with his ideas. And I think he's far more, you know, libertarians are interesting because some are like lefties and some are righties. He's a pretty lefty libertarian.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, libertarians are kind of a modge podge of people that just like the politically homeless, I guess. We just don't know where we want to be, and we'd rather not be anywhere. So it's like Neverland for voters.
Yeah, a bunch of weirdos. No, really, really, really quickly, just because this story is interesting, so I want to fit it in. the voters in Florida are going to decide in November whether they want school board candidates to run with a party affiliation. That seems weird.
Yeah, Amendment 1 will be on the ballot this year for people to vote whether or not they want to know who their, school board candidates are, where they sit politically. And as much as I do not like this, because I think that there's nothing political about reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is what school should be all about. Florida has been big about putting politics on the front line in education, just through like parental rights advocacy and like Moms for Liberty, and a lot of these groups that just started forming throughout, like from the pandemic and forward. They are politically aligned and they are active in school board meetings, in politics. And the Republicans and Democrats in Florida have not been shy about publicly endorsing candidates. So it's kind of already happening without it being like you putting a letter next to your, like, your affiliation. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like it because, like I said, I just don't see why it matters to a certain extent. Like, I think your opinions should speak louder than any political affiliation, but we'll see what Florida thinks.
It allows for lazy voting. And what would happen here is all the people with D's next to their name would get into the school boards. And, I just feel like having to put a label, unless you get to choose, right? And if you're not a Republican, you can put independent and you can run that way or whatever it is. But yeah, I would like to see party affiliation stripped from all the races, and you can't put it on, so people have to actually research the candidates that they're voting for and not just make a default vote. But I don't like that. I hope that doesn't pass in Florida, but that'll be something interesting to check up on after the November election. All right, Miranda, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
It's not even controversial anymore. People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
All right. We're going to get to questions, comments, our daily subscriber show poll. I'm going to pepper in some comments from yesterday's show that we had to post taped instead of live because the meltdown. So we'll throw in a couple of those. But I did go back and read what you guys had to say about the show yesterday after everything calmed down a little bit. First, I want to get to our daily subscriber show poll. Because we've talked about this idea of tracking your ballot. It's so easy to do where people are like, I'm worried my ballot's just going to be thrown in a dumpster. Well, find out. So you can track it from when they get it to when it's counted. And then that's also how you find out if there's an issue with your ballot that needs to be cured, like a signature issue. They're supposed to reach out to you if that's the case. But so I asked you guys on Patreon, Locals, and X, after casting your ballot, do you track it online to make sure it's counted? And I will say across all our subscription platforms, the results are pretty consistent. Like 2/3 say yes and 1/3 say they don't do it. It's so easy though. I will just say, like, I like that peace of mind knowing that, oh, they got it and I'm counted. Robin said no, but I will now. Matthew Cook said, yes, I had a ballot a few years back that didn't show received. I contacted King County Elections and got the matter resolved. Love that. Because why go through the trouble of filling it out if you don't know if they got it? Could be sitting in a USPS mailbox somewhere, like those ballots in Seattle last election cycle. The USPS didn't even pick them up. Potter on Locals says, I track both mine and my husband. I thought it was going to stop it. I track both of mine. And I was like, going to write your screen name down and tell on you. No, I'm just kidding. I track both mine and my husband's ballot. My signature has changed so much throughout the years. I'm really surprised my ballot has never gotten rejected. Chris says, I would also like to know that my paper ballot was recorded accurately. Hard to know that. They don't post like who you voted for, I think is what you're trying to say. And Bob says, I did this for the first time. Sad that we even have to consider doing it. And I agree. I also wanted to address one comment that was made. I think I pulled it here because somebody seemed confused about the process. Where was it? Sorry. Somebody had said, I usually do, but I forgot to rip off the tab this time. You don't have to rip off the tab. You can, that's an easy way to do it. But the Secretary of State's website, you can plug in your voter information and you can just check it online as well. So you don't have to have the actual tab on the website. You can find a way to do that. My nose itches. I don't want to pick it on camera, but I have a little itch.
Please
Sorry,
don't.
guys. Sorry, I know you love me, so it's still there. It's an internal itch,
Here.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Put up the poll question again.
No, it's fine. I'll let you know. So thank you for subscribers who took that poll. All right, let's get to some super chats. Old Sub Sailor with a $5 super chat. 2.6 billion is probably what Ferguson spent on the frivolous lawsuits. Exactly. We won't get that number from him, but we'll definitely get the number of money he saved Washingtonians. My Cup of Tea 101 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for talking about the CETA. Avista just had a public meeting regarding this in progress their role, and it was not promising. Oh, so you're talking about the battery storage facility. It's interesting they had a public meeting. I'm glad they're having public meetings, but it's just, it all smells fishy to me. Some comments from yesterday. We talked about the South Lake Union Trolley, slut for short, I can't do anything about it. That's what it's called. Being broken down. Nobody can ride her right now because they can't get the correct parts from overseas.
Well played.
Rick E says, Brandi, shame on you for slut shaming. I will slut shame that $4.6 million a year boondoggle that no one even rides. Waste of money. Waste of money. Also from yesterday on the Ferguson comments, I left a comment. Y says, I left a comment on the live post and then it got taken down because we deleted everything. But Ferguson has no integrity or morals. His only scale is whether it benefits himself or his political ambition. Washingtonians are just his stepping stones, 100%. If he wins the governor's mansion, I give it one term before he tries to run for president. Old Sub Sailor yesterday said, sorry for all the comments. I'm sitting in Les Schwab waiting for my truck. Don't ever be sorry for all the comments. He said, I still think you guys are getting hacked. Ferguson has some operatives messing with you to keep you off the air because you're exposing him for who he really is. I just like that explanation better.
It's just more fun.
It's more fun. I like that explanation better than a service we pay an awful lot of money for to be reliable, not being reliable. Let me see. Julie King, I like how you were putting your binoculars in focus. Sometimes I do stuff on the show where I'm like, because I would say half of people who consume unDivided only listen to it. They never have the joy of watching it. So they're probably like, what is she doing? You know, I have a lot of visual things we talk about on the show.
Your husband would be impressed that you actually did the focus.
You know, I got to get it in focus. See what he left out. We're having too much fun. NWA V8R says, $9.99 super chat. Liberals will fight you to the death over their ideology, but as soon as you hold them to their ideas, they refuse. Can you house this illegal immigrant? Oh, I don't have any room.
And it's Northwest Avenue.
That's
Aviator,
right. We already talked about this. Northwest Aviator. Very creative. Thank you.
It is creative. Yeah.
Wa Java Junkie. There are 1,900 ballots in King County that need to be cured.
It's interesting.
Don't cure those.
I mean,
don't let
our people,
know.
Yes.
Don't let them know about that.
Yeah, just don't let your neighbors know.
Shush it. Renee, our friend Renee Nassett says, some of our best workers that we put to work daily are homeless. It gives them purpose. A hand up, not a hand out. See, 100%. But I think as a business, you ought to have a right to decide and to know, like, this is a homeless individual. And not, because like I said, there are other issues that come along with homelessness. And you might not be as reliable if you're dealing with a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue. But by all means, if you're a business and you want to put homeless people to work and give them a hand up, like I said, I think there are businesses like yours that are already doing that. And I think that's awesome, but it should be up to you and it shouldn't be some forced consideration from the government. Olympia Chud, I talk to a few homeless guys in Olympia regularly. I suggest buying one a sandwich and having a conversation. We should all be doing this. Yeah, sometimes I think, again, I'm not saying all homeless people are dangerous. My dad was homeless. I don't think that's the case, but I do think you have to be careful, and it might be easier for like a man to do than a woman or something to sit down. It's just my opinion. I think there are some homeless people I'd feel very safe doing that. Some areas I wouldn't feel it safe doing that. All right, Captain Cranky Pants. I consider myself an independent, thus I have no party. I vote for the most qualified candidate, as you should. Frankly, unless your mission, like I have a mission this year for balance. So like if I am looking at two candidates and I really don't have a strong opinion or knowledge of either of them, I'm voting for the Republican this year because we just need balance.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you that. But I don't like when people just pick a name.
Yes.
Like don't go for the name that sounds however you think a name should sound or whatever. Like do the research, Google or
Google's your friend.
Look up on the pamphlet, do some work,
listen to the unDivided podcast.
Who will make choices that will affect your life and get us where we want to be.
Yeah. By the way,
I look very tan today.
Look how pale I look.
You look very pale, and I look very tan today. I know.
Wow. That's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I've been out in the sun, but I don't know. Something with our lighting is making me look very tan today.
I don't know. If I can start characterizing you as a person of color, I have quite the diverse staff. Then 100% of my employees would be people of color.
Yeah.
Well, Miranda's not.
No.
66. I'd be doing great.
Definitely.
You're getting there.
I'm trying to think of what I have in Icelandic is not really going to qualify, so there might be some other. I think I did a DNA test, so
okay.
There's not much.
Do you
in there
have
you
like
can work with.
you might have at least Elizabeth Warren levels of Native American?
I could have Elizabeth Warren levels.
Yeah,
That's
like
probably about it, though.
1/2000.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get canceled for that. Oh wait, we can't get canceled. Bill Biz with a $20 super chat. The Spokane proposal to make homelessness a protected class would be the start of a nightmare. How about drug addicts? Maybe they could start referring to them as undocumented pharmacists. I like that. Yes. That's just an undocumented pharmacist. I think that's the drug dealers. The drug dealers, we should start calling them undocumented pharmacists.
Okay.
That's the best idea.
And I am getting
ever.
a lot of criticism for boycott. People are boycotting Google apparently. So yes, I know there are some other search engines. My brother would be very disappointed with me saying Google. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
But look up your people.
Why are we
is all I'm
boycotting
saying.
Google?
I don't know. That's what people are saying. Don't
Okay.
use Google. Boycott Google.
I have a Microsoft, the Bing just pops up for some reason and it's terrible. And then I end up going back to Google.
I know.
So give me a different suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I'm too old to change my ways at this point. I've been using Google for too many years. I've been using
Old
Google
dog.
ever since there was anything to search. Or I did start with Ask Jeeves. Do you remember Ask Jeeves?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God. You would ask the butler and
Yes.
he'd give you some sort of answer.
That was back in the dial-up days.
Yes. Ask Jeeves. Oh my God. Blast from the past. All right. So on the show yesterday, good comments per the usual. Thank you all. On the show yesterday, we talked about how Joe Biden was shaming the media because there was some inflationary news, and he was like directing the media, you should start writing about that. So of course we have our friend Zach Abraham with Bulwark Capital on the show every week. We wanted to ask him about the latest inflationary news, but also to ask him about Kamala Harris's forthcoming plans to combat inflation. Zach Abraham, welcome back to Undivided.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always fun to be here.
Yeah, Biden has directed the media to write more positive stories about how his policies are bringing down inflation. Should we be writing more positive stories about how his policies are bringing down inflation?
Not at all.
I didn't think so.
No, you're just yeah. I just despise the way these people talk about it because they're bringing down how fast prices are still going up, right? Nothing's dropping. And if you actually look at it, we just saw an acceleration in sheltering costs, right? So, what are the two things that impact people the most? Sheltering costs and food costs, right? Food costs are still climbing, and the pace at which sheltering costs are climbing has now accelerated. So, and I think the only reason Biden's policies have absolutely, and this isn't me grinding a political axe, it's just factual. Biden's policies have been a whip helping drive inflation higher. The biggest reason you're seeing any capitulation right now in the rate at which prices are going up, and I think everybody on your show, when you talk to people, you guys, well, I want you to be armed with this fact so you can look at them and go, prices aren't coming down, they're just going up less fast, right? Gotcha. Well, what we've seen over the same period of time is wage growth is slowing down. So, no, the economy's slowing is what's bringing down the rate of inflation. So if Biden wants to take credit for that, then he needs to say that his policies are simultaneously the reason the economy's slowing. But he's not saying that, right? So I actually think what you have is potentially a really nasty stagflation setup, meaning if wages continue to drop, that could be signaling recession or recession-like characteristics, but it's probably not going to drop anywhere close enough to get inflation negative. So you could have a scenario where unemployment is going up at the same time inflation is still running higher. And that's, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but every single passing day when you look at the economic data coming out, that's what it's looking like.
Yeah, and it's kind of this thing where, and all presidents do this, frankly, of both political parties. It's like they want to take credit for the good news and they don't want to take credit for the bad news. Like it's with gas prices. Like high gas prices aren't my fault. Low gas prices, I did that. Like, it's the same thing here with inflation. So I've got to ask, Kamala Harris is, we've all been waiting for her to unveil her policy proposals or really even do a news interview, one of the two, whichever. But she says one of her key proposals to try to get the cost of goods under control for Americans, particularly at the grocery store, is that she wants to put in place a gouging ban. It would be the first ever federal ban on what they call price gouging from food and grocery industries. Good idea or bad idea?
It's a horrible idea, and history is replete with everything. She'll drive the cost up higher. And it's funny you bring this up because I was reading that article this morning and in a non-political way, just shaking my head going, why can these people not realize this? If you want to lower the cost, make the sector more competitive. Don't start putting in rules. And they're going to have unforeseen consequences. They could drive certain goods way higher. Why? Because if a farmer cannot pass off his increased costs of fertilizer and feed and all, that's all gone up, right? So how is it that if he can't pass on that cost to the consumer, guess what he's going to do? He's going to quit farming it, right? So supply is going to go down, demand stays the same, and price goes up. And these idiots just will not accept the fact that the economy doesn't fit into their woke world communist slanting views. It just doesn't. And if it worked, USSR, the Soviet Union era grocery stores would have been wonderful, right? They would have been the place to be, but their shelves were bare. So go ahead, Kamala. Go do it. Get your communist on, but it's going to be a disaster.
Preach it, Zach. Preach it, Zach. It's so true. It's like you look at rent control. It's like, we're just going to control it's like, okay, but then people are going to sell their rental properties. And then that's going to create a whole other slew of issues. So it's like this feel-good false fix, quote unquote, that's disastrous down the line. And that's why we need people like you to tell people the truth, Zach, the truth.
Yeah, it's just empirical. It bakes my brain because these things should not be politicized, right? No. We should all know this, left and right. No. Don't do that. Make the sector more competitive. Do that. Takes care of everything. But nope, they can't do that.
Well, maybe she'll call you for your advice. Maybe, Kamala will give you a ring and you can just explain basic economics to her.
Yeah, I don't think that conversation would go well.
Yeah, probably not. All right, Zach Abraham, we appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Zach just spitting hard truths today. Actually, easy truths, if we're being honest with ourselves. You can learn more about Zach Abraham and Bulwark Capital's risk management strategies by getting their common sense investing guide. Go to knowyourriskradio.com, knowyourriskradio.com. You can also check out his radio show where he talks about all of this stuff. Investment advisory services offered through Check Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24244. Go to knowyourriskradio.com. And just in case you didn't understand Zach's explanation of what's happening with the inflation, let's dumb it down a little bit with our closing sanity check. All right, you want to understand what's happening with inflation? Former President Donald Trump, take it away. Take it away.
So, this is Tic Tacs, right? I don't know if I like the company. I've never met. I have no idea. They're so lucky. Look at all the television. This is the greatest commercial they ever had. But that's what happened. This is inflation. This is Tic Tac. This is inflation. This is what's happened. I just happened to have somebody gave me this one today. I said, I think we'll put it up as an example of inflation.
Technically shrinkflation. And I also don't know if somebody gave him that Tic Tac thing as a joke. Are Tic Tac things really that small right now?
Well, I think that's an option. I'm just not sure that
that it's the same product
or something.
Doesn't matter. It's still funny. All right. A reminder, we are going to be at Summer Freedom Fest 2024 this Saturday afternoon into the evening. in Redmond at the personal ranch of Brian Haywood, the backer of the Let's Go Washington initiatives. It is a chance to get together with sane people, talk about sane things, listen to good music. There will also be food trucks, vendor booths. You can buy unDivided merch while you're there. There'll be inflatables for the kids, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. I'll post this again today across our social media and subscription platforms. We would love to see you there. All right, with that has been today's episode of unDivided. Thank you for being here all week. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. We appreciate every single one of you. Welcome to all our new subscribers. If you would like to sign up to support the show during this critical election year, you can do that for just $5 a month. unDividedPod.com, unDividedPod.com. We will also see subscribers back for Sundays with subscribers. We're going to talk about some of Governor Jay Inslee's climate policies and what they are doing to the hardworking middle class. So subscribers, we'll see you then. The rest of you, hopefully we'll see you on Saturday at Summer Freedom Fest. Fireworks, freedom, America. Okay, you can